know I'm coming through. When the growth look good on you, best believe they wanna screw now. I've been trying to climb, devil threw me in the dark. Baby, don't be insecure, you can still go make a mark like blow. Could never let them drain my soul now. Blow. Tables turning like doorknobs, wow. Blow. I think I'm about to set sail. I'm a walking, living legend, walking with my chest out. Life keep dealing me cards, I keep feeling it.
What's going on, people? What is going on? It's G. We're back in the building. You already know the vibes, people. You already know. If you're watching this video, make sure you've already hit that like button. We're 1 minute in, so you should have already have done that. If you're new here to the channel, please make sure you do subscribe to GTV Football Channel, GTV FC, whatever you want to call it. Just make sure you subscribe to the channel. You already know why we're here. You already know it's the end of the season. The season is now done and dusted for everybody across Europe. So got nothing else to play for, nothing else to do apart from, of course, the Euros coming up. And make sure you guys stay tuned because I will be covering England in the Euros this summer. But we're here to talk about this man here that you guys can, of course, see on my screen. It's in the caption as well. And today I'm going to be giving you guys kind of my thoughts, opinion, and my rating for Jurgen Klopp for his time here at Liverpool. So, of course, let's start from the beginning. You know, Liverpool, 2015, came during, I think it was during October period, he came to the club during a period of time when, we just let go of Brendan Rodgers after a draw, I think it was against Everton. We weren't in a, it's weird because, the 13-14 season, of course, we almost won the title. Luis Suarez, Gerrard, Surridge, Coutinho, Sterling, that team. We all remember that team, right? Almost won the league, didn't do it, no problem. We didn't even expect to even be in that position, but, we were there and unfortunately weren't able to, see it through. Not an issue. We then come to that 14-15 season. I think, when we did actually get to that season, I think, especially with, of course, the best striker world at the time, leaving the football club, I in my opinion, I did, okay, I don't expect us to be in a position, where I don't expect us to be in a position where it's like, okay, we're going to be potentially challenging again. But I definitely thought, okay, you know what, we've moved in this direction. Surely now, the next steps are to move in the direction of, top four. Even then, I think most people would have just been happy with, just because, of course, you would have seen, everything that we saw from the previous season and what we had done. But then, the stuff came and then we made some crazy signings, Balotelli, Ricky Lamberts, and, had the Lalanas and, all of these kind of players, like, respect to them. But, those are not players that I think are going to get you top four, in the Premier League, especially when you've just lost Luis Suarez, who at the time was the best striker in the world, and then he's playing alongside probably at that moment in time, probably on form best England striker around, at that time in Daniel Sturridge, and we already know of his injury records and all that kind of stuff that kind of blighted his career. But ultimately Rodgers gets sacked, they parted ways, whatever you want to call it. Jurgen Klopp then comes in after his time at Borussia Dortmund. Even looking at his time at Borussia Dortmund, without getting into too much detail about it, back-to-back Bundesligas, got into the Champions League final, won the cup competition. So, he was definitely a manager, I think, at that moment in time where I was like, okay, cool. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to be mad with an appointment like that. Forget about hindsight and everything that we've seen, happen to Liverpool after his appointment. I think it's just more about, we were where we had Brendan Rodgers in charge, so we weren't like we were knocking about with the best of the best. We were literally like, who's going to come in now? We've had the Roy Hodgsons, we've had the Kenny Dalglish's kind of thing. So who else is there really that would want to come to Liverpool, knowing that it's a big club, knowing that there's a lot that kind of comes with it. But he called it himself, the normal one, his first press conference, him coming in. That kind of charisma that look how young he looks, that charisma that he had. I think for me personally, at that moment in time, I was just more about, okay, you've come in to a space where it's like, obviously you got the stuff potentially like with owners that we've been dealing with, that was Hicks and Gillette kind of thing a good few years ago. We're now in this space where I don't even really know where Liverpool are at the moment, because we found ourselves in the title race, which we probably had no right to really be in, but we were in one, right? The following season, he obviously comes in, we're kind of like lingering, and it's almost like we go back to normality, you know, straight away. So you're almost like, oh, so are we just back to that team that finishes mid-table, maybe goes on a cup run, the cup team that we've been, you know, for basically the entirety of my life, because we've only got one title, so we've only ever been a cup team. I've really seen my team win cups on a consistent kind of somewhat basis, right? So him coming in, someone who's won a league title back to back, you know, be it that as well, beating a Pep Guardiola team to a title, and of course has gotten himself to a Champions League final. Surely, when he comes into the building, you know, he talks about, you know, potentially winning a Premier League title within a certain time frame and things like that. You know, he's saying all the right things. He's saying all the right things. Now, obviously, you then look at like his football that he played at, and I was like, yeah, I like some of your players, you know, of course, Lewandowski at the time, Kagawa, then moved to Manchester United, really like Gertz was a player I really liked. Gundogan, I thought, you know, that's a decent play, got in there, Max Hummels, and, you know, a fair few other players that they had in their team, and you just thought, okay, they're playing. At that time, anyway, I think like Klopp's football at that period of time, it was surprising, because I think, you know, we were all, as we are now, really kind of under the spell of Pep Guardiola, right? So Pep Guardiola playing this kind of football that he's playing, you know, at Barcelona, then he goes to Bayern Munich and he changes it up. You know, Philip Lahm is coming into midfield, Kimmich, you know, later moves into the midfield kind of area. He's doing weird things. I'm only seeing not saying that he's the very first person, because I know someone is going to find someone out there. But to me, when I'm watching football, and obviously I'm watching the favorite players out there at that period of time in Pep Guardiola, and I'm following his kind of journey, I'm looking at that thinking, bruh, crazy. Like, I'm seeing 1-2 centre backs. I'm seeing Manuel Neuer coming into centre back position. You know, and you're thinking to yourself, that's kind of mad, don't you think? Like, goalkeeper in this position? Never seen that before. I don't remember anybody doing that, you know, back in them times where your goalkeeper is basically playing as a centre back, you know. And we had like to Valdez at Barcelona, but not like this, you know, not like the way that he was kind of doing it, you know, Neuer. So, you know, doing all of these inventive things. And I think coming up against a Klopp team at that time who were just about intensity, and, you know, it was like surprise attacks, you know, kind of thing. And then, you know, they would hit you when you least expect it, you know, kind of team. And they're all about the energy. And of course, you've got a couple ballers there as well. You throw that into the mix, and all of a sudden you've got this again press, but with a little bit of with a little bit of panache, would I say, you know, about it. You thought, okay, cool, you know, you bring that to Liverpool. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like, not obviously, I know how it works. Ultimately, we don't have Lewandowski, we don't have Gertz at that time, so I'm definitely not sitting there and expecting, you know, those kind of things. And of course, you know, when we look to his, you know, his first game that he plays against Spurs, you know, I think that one was, you know, really interesting. I know it says they're Klopp FSG, but it should say versus Spurs. You know, you can see there, you know, Simon Mignolet, Nathaniel Klein, Skirtle, and that, but Sacco, Moreno, Lucas, Emre Can, James Milner was captain, Coutinho, Lallana. They've got Reed in the bench. Has got Bogdan, Kolo Toure, Randall, Joe Allen, Jordan Ibe, Texeria, Pinel, Jerome Sinclair. Like, this is the kind of teams that Donny had. This is the kind of team. And I think one thing I've always said is, of course, I don't like comparing other managers with obviously previous managers and previous teams and stuff like that. I don't like doing that too much, because then I feel like you start to take away from the manager at hand, you know, kind of thing, and you get too meshed into that one thing of, oh, okay, well, we had this and look at what this person did, and etc. But ultimately, this is obviously this wasn't his team. This is the team Brendan Rodgers had obviously left. So, you know, all of that kind of stuff, you know, ensued, and then, you know, we're kind of in kind of in that kind of space. You know, we're in a space now, you know, where first game, when I'm thinking back to it now, I think the Moreno scored that day. Yeah, he scored that really good goal, I think. No, he didn't score, actually. I think he didn't score. I can't remember the score, actually, in that game. I just remember more how he played. And I just remember thinking, Jesus Christ, Liverpool are pressing. Like, I don't even remember seeing that too tough where, you know, Lallana pressing. You know, I'm seeing Coutinho, Milner, all of these guys pressing, Emre Can, in the middle of the park. Like it was just different, of course, than what we had seen. And come the ending of that season, we will remember we get to the cup final of the League Cup, we get to the cup final of the Europa League, should I say. Obviously, we lose both of those finals. And of course, he's coming off them himself, by the way. Klopp's coming back losing the Champions League final as well. So now you're looking at you thinking, 3 finals, my bro. Yeah, that's the last 3 finals you've played in, you've lost, kind of thing. So, it's not looking too great, if I'm being 100% honest, with you. And, there was little talks about, okay, fair enough. He lost the League Cup. That's Manchester City. Then you lose the Europa League. You lose it to Sevilla after going 1-0 up. There's going to be conversations, and rightly so. But I think for me personally, I was just more like, okay, I can still get with this though. He's done all of that in his first season. So, okay, let's see. What's that? That's 15-16 season. So let's see what he's like in the 16-17 season. Now I'm looking at him thinking when he can come in and maybe get a few more players here and there, just to kind of help him with everything. I think this is when we get Gini Wijnaldum and stuff like that. Sadio Mane, can we now push for a top 4 place? Kind of thing. 16-17 season, we did, and I believe we did finish in the top 4 that season. It was calm. Like there was just progression, and that's all you want to see, right? Like we hear Arsenal fans talking about it all the time, like progressing. It's been 5 years, we won an FA Cup kind of thing. And I think even with Klopp, obviously thinking of it at that time when he came in, you're like, okay, cool, I can see a progression now. So I'm not, me personally, I'm not sitting there like, yeah, like I'm vexed, obviously, because he's not won the trophies. Ultimately, you get to a final, I want to win, right? I don't want to lose. So I'm not happy with the fact that he's lost both of those games. But at the same time, I am thinking, okay, see something. So let's kind of move on. 16, 17, as I said, you get top 4, blah, 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 no problem. Again, I'm still rocking with it. I'm still rocking with it. I'm still like, okay, let's keep doing our thing. And then, of course, we get to that 17-18 season. We know come the ending of that season, Liverpool finishing in the 16-17 top 4, 17-18, we then get to the Champions League final. That's when, of course, we've got Mo Salah coming in. He's obviously previously signed Virgil van Dijk before as well. So, and even that Virgil van Dijk signing, I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, like, with how Klopp plays, he almost needed. To be fair, I didn't think Virgil van Dijk was going to be a fantastic signing. Like, of course, I couldn't have foreseen, where he was going to finish. But at the same time, I thought, okay, he's still good enough. I like him. I don't mind him. Although at the time there was Jose Font. I think who else was there? Obviously, we had Lovren as well. So they were more the guys that I was looking at, if I'm being 100% honest. But ultimately, again, I'm not gonna kill you over it. I'm still like, all right, cool. And we got to a final of a Champions League. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And that final of the Champions League is against Real Madrid, the best club side, in world football. So I'm definitely not looking at that and thinking, of course, circumstances, the whole carrier situation, etc., etc. But again, he's lost another final. So he's lost 3 finals with Liverpool in the time that he's been here. On top of the final, he lost at Bayern Munich at Borussia Dortmund in the Champions League final. So that's 2 Champions League finals that he's lost in his career up to that point. So of course, people were talking, man. People were talking because they were like, ultimately, I look at Klopp's stages at Liverpool, in terms of how you rate him and how, like, what I would then give his overall rating is based upon the stages, so to speak. And then, of course, trying to culminate that into an overall kind of number. And I just think that at that point, again, he's still got a team that's building. He's still kind of doing his thing to get all the way to a Champions League final as well. Of course, that's amazing. Done really, in my opinion, you've done really, really well. Excuse me, to even get to that kind of point. So again, I'm not really too mad. And again, you finish in the top 4 in that season as well, kind of thing. So I'm like, okay, again, things are just moving up. So at that point, I'm just kind of cooling. Then, of course, we get to the next season, which is the 18-19 season. And in my opinion, and again, just personally, my opinion, I believe that is Liverpool's best ever season, under Jurgen Klopp, in terms of when we look at the team as a whole. Again, like I said, obviously now we're getting in Alisson, we've got in Fabinho. You can see this is the team here that we played in that year's Champions League final against Spurs, coming back against Barcelona, the 4-0. But even when I look to like the league and stuff like that, in that 18-19 season, 38 games, we won 30 matches and only lost one game that entire season, conceding only 22 goals. Obviously, the other cup competitions, whatever people say, Klopp weren't taking that stuff seriously, man. Which was annoying a little bit, because I was sitting there thinking it's a bit snobbish considering we ain't won nothing. You know what I mean? I know of course we want to win the big trophies, and of course, like he was able to do it. Then fairs, you know what I mean? You do your thing, but we haven't won anything, and really, you had shown everybody that you can't win anything at this moment in time. So as much as at the time, yeah, I liked him. Like, he's cool, he's calm. Yeah, I don't mind him being the manager. I'm also not going to put him onto any pedestal because he hasn't done anything. It's all well and good just being this team. Right? Fabinho won a Champions League in his first season with a team that had Jimmy Traore. Let's just deep that for a second. A team that had Jimmy Traore, and that's the Champions League. I'm not even asking you to even win that. I'm just saying he won something. Then an FA Cup the following season. It's so all of a sudden now you are starting to do that comparison thing, because you're thinking, are we just going to always be this kind of team? But again, like I said, in that 18-19 season, for me, was literally the best that I've ever seen Liverpool. And looking performed, it was the whole stats versus eye test kind of argument, because it was like you were providing performances with the GNA, i.e. we scored 85 goals in the league that season. We scored 89 goals actually in the league that season. And as I said, only conceding those 22 goals. Mo Salah getting himself 27 goals in all comps in that year as well. We're seeing Mo Salah progress. We're seeing what he's like with that, the front three. We're seeing the front three probably alongside the Rooney, Ronaldo, Tevez, Messi, Suarez, Neymar, Bale, Benzema, Ronaldo. They're up there alongside those, in my opinion. When I think about trios in football in like recent times anyway, they're definitely up there. Where you put them, that's totally up to you. But they're definitely up there. They definitely, have a case, for a conversation. But like I said, ultimately, we win that Champions League. It's fantastic. Everyone's really, really happy. We're only 1 point off Manchester City, in the Premier League that season as well. So, to get 97 points and you don't win it, of course, you're going to be like, boom, 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 boom. No worries. Cool. We kind of move on. And then we move forward, right? So we get to the next season. And then, of course, the season we win the Super Cup, we win the Club World Cup. But of course, the big one, the one that Liverpool fans have been waiting for 30 years, at that time, and that is to win the Premier League. And at that moment, I remember saying, because I said 18-19 is still up today, it's still the best season I've ever seen, even though we won the Premier League the following season, it almost felt like it would have been more fitting to have won it the season before, just because COVID coming in, and we didn't know that was going to happen, but COVID coming in and all these extra little things, I was just like, okay, cool, this is your time. But of course, we ended up doing it the following season. Fantastic from the team. Yeah, everything was kind of great, if I'm being honest with you. I mean, we got 2 more points than the previous season, which is crazy. 99 points, so close to getting that 100 points, which would have capped it off, for us. But we didn't get through. We didn't do really well in the Champions League, FA Cup, League Cup. Again, Klopp's not taking none of that stuff seriously, as per usual. So again, you're picking up that trophy. So no one's moaning, and I'm definitely not going to be one who's moaning. Well, I just won the Premier League. I don't care about nothing else anyway. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But cool. We kind of just move on. We kind of just move on, and then obviously we, the whole summer and the signings and stuff like that. Then we move on to like the next season. After that, we finished 3rd. We ended up getting saved. That season, of course, we were battered by injuries to our centre backs, having to play, like if I even find it here, having to play Reece Williams and Nat Phillips at the back. This was the year though. Now people always, they always ask me like, oh, right, like, when were you like Klopp out? In terms of Klopp out, it wouldn't have been this season after we won the Premier League. Of course not. That's stupid. Why would I do that? It's been 1 season, right? But it was this season that I was starting to, maybe the flaws were always there, but I was starting to notice these flaws a lot more in this season, when we had to play Reece and Nat, because, we can talk about the FSG thing and whatever, again, I'm really not concerned with that kind of conversation because Klopp is the one who deals with what happens on the pitch, right? We praise him when things are doing well on the pitch. I have to criticize him when things aren't going so well. Now, of course, he couldn't have foreseen the amount of injuries that we did have to our team. That we can't blame him for. What I do blame him for is that he ended up going up with this partnership anyway, but was very reluctant to use it in the first place, which, in my opinion, hindered the season. It really hindered the season because even though, yes, I think we had Fabinho and Henderson, Ginny, I think even played a couple times in at centre back, you could just see that this wasn't a long-term solution. This wasn't something that we could continuously keep doing because the midfield that we had at the time, again, couldn't keep using that. And if some of those players get injured, you really don't have anyone in midfield, and then you're stuck for defenders. If you were going to always play Nat Phillips, and I think Nat Phillips played away at the San Siro and all of that, if he was going to play Nat Phillips, why didn't you just play him? If he was going to play Reece Williams, why didn't you just play these guys? Why didn't you just play these guys from time? And that was the thing that annoyed me so much about that season, because I kept saying, just play the players, bro. You're better off playing an actual defender in the team. Excuse me. You're better off playing a natural defender in the team as opposed to playing something else. And then what took the biscuit is that, cool, even if you don't want to do that, like tactically, and this is where I'm getting more annoyed with Klopp, is because then tactically I'm like, you can see that the defenders that you have currently in your team cannot play the same way. When we talk about, people want to talk to me about De Zerbi this and he's not adaptable. Klopp is basically the exact same person, does not know how to adapt. He doesn't want to adapt. Well, no, he doesn't know. He probably does know. He just didn't want to adapt that way because he obviously felt the way that he plays is the way forward for Liverpool. No problem. But guess what? Nat isn't fast and Reece isn't fast. So trying to play a high line with those two was criminal that year. And that's what really, really irked me, in that season. In that season, we can see they're flipping 42 goals in that season, only scored like 68 goals anyway. Finishing third and, getting saved by an Alisson header, kind of thing. And it was so many things, not just about the injuries that annoyed me. The injuries are the injuries. So I'll talk on the injuries because you don't foresee, players going to go into players like Van Dijk anyway, being out for the season, Joe Gomez being injured for the season, Matip, not being, you don't foresee every one of your centre backs going out. I get that. But you have then, you can't scream other managers are not adaptable. And when Klopp does it, we give him contact and this, that, and the third. I don't do the bias stuff around here. We ain't got time for all of that kind of stuff. Like, let's talk about what we actually saw with our own two eyes. And Klopp was not adaptable and tactically very inept that season. And I think that cost us more finishing higher in the league, considering we were top, than injuries could have possibly have done. Obviously, it's hindsight. We don't even know. I might just be talking out my what, because I don't know exactly what would have happened in that moment. But for me, the way I looked at it, that's the first thing I was thinking. You ended up getting Kabak, even though he wasn't that really that good. Obviously, Ben Davis. I don't even know what the point of that signing was, but you got Ben Davis in, anyway. And I think you wanted to get in, Kanate. You couldn't get Kanate until the summer, but you said, I still want to get Kanate. Guess what that means? We can't get another centre back in because we're going to go and sign Kanate. Remember, you know this. You work under these impressions. You work under this you work under this model and you understand this model. I know he doesn't agree with everything to do the model. He doesn't have to agree with everything, but he still doesn't mind working. And remember, he understands it better than us as fans. So if you know this and you know what's going to happen in terms of where the money, this and that and the third, if you then choose to go and sign a guy that you can't actually sign until the summer, that's on you now, my guy. That's not on anyone else. Let's stop doing let's look at the FSG. That's got nothing to do with FSG. It's to do with you, because FSG still got him in two centre backs. They just knew that we can't go in and get someone else like of a Kanate mold and get him in now. It's not going to make sense because that type of player is going to cost you an arm and a leg, and there's no point in doing that. You just get extorted in January. Totally understood it from their point of view. Like I said, that's all on Klopp. That's where I place the blame. I place blame on FSG for other things, of course. Like, should have given us more money when we won the Premier League, to be able to boost the team, kind of thing, or give the club a bit more of allowances. But then at the same time, and obviously in later cases when we talk about like trying to get other players and things like that, and that kind of down. not turned down, sorry, that we've just not really wanted to put the money up for and stuff like that. Of course, that's where you give them blame for various other things that they do. But we're talking about this specific incident in terms of the whole centre-back situation. I'm only looking at Klopp. Sorry, like, or that's a lie, because the two go hand in hand, right? So I'd say 70% I'm looking at Klopp, 30% I'm looking at the owners, because Klopp knows what's happening. We don't know. We just look at it from the outside, and why are we not signing any centre backs? Well, technically we did. We signed 2 centre backs. You know what I mean? Just because they weren't the quality that we wanted it to be, we signed 2 centre backs. In fact, the centre back he really did want, which is the one that Klopp wanted, he knew he couldn't get him now, but he still said, "Not just get him. We'll just make do with these 2." And on top of that, you don't then change up the team tactically. Why? Because it's not adaptable. This is where it's really started to annoy me. But I said, okay, we keep it moving. I'm not going to get too mad with it, you know, so to speak. Then we get to the next season. Obviously, you know, in that season, in the 21-22 season, of course, we signed Thiago and everyone's gassed and, you know, blah, 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 and all that kind of good stuff, right? Then we get into, you know, that next season, where we're going for 4 trophies. Obviously, we only ended up with 2. So I was like, okay, cool. You know, again, we run Manchester City close, but, you know, now we've reached that point, and don't worry, Arsenal fans, you will reach there, especially if Pep Guardiola does actually decide to stay. But if he does, you guys will understand what it's like to do your best, but your best isn't really that good enough, to be honest with you. Because he ended up finishing second again, 92 points, won 28 games in the league, only lost 2, scored 94 goals, conceded 26, which is less goals. We scored more and conceded less than the year we actually won the Premier League. And guess what? Manchester City still won the Premier League. They still won the Premier League. Do you get what I'm trying to say? We lost the Champions League final to Real Madrid in that same season. Again, Klopp proved, coming up against these kind of teams, ultimately you can't really get the job done. You know what I mean? You've had, now this is the second time, so well, third time, so you've gone to a Champions League final, and out of 4, and you haven't won. It's now like, do you know what I mean? Like, you're, again, not even that the loser tag comes up, but I am looking at it thinking, this isn't a guy who can always win all the time, you know? Like, you have all of these players: Van Dijk, Sadio Mane, Roberto Firmino, Mo Salah, Trent, Robertson, Alisson, Fabinho. You got all these players, you still cannot get over the line consistent enough for my liking. Remember, he's in the position to do so. It's not like I'm saying, oh, well, we finished 4th all the time, that was the quality of our team. Bro, we're finishing 2nd by 1 point. I'm sorry, but when people try to say, oh, if we signed Jude Bellingham, no, it really wouldn't have done any of that. How about we go back to the games that we're drawing in those said seasons? How about we go back to games that we fluffed our lines in certain matches, drawing Spurs or a Leicester City, you know, dropping points there? Why do we go back to those games? Because guess what? Losing by 1 point, don't think a player really changes that, to be honest with you. If I'm being super, I've never really seen that in my life, to be honest with you. Usually the gap's always going to be a lot bigger than that. It's not going to just be, oh, yeah, 1 point. This player is going to give us an extra point. No, it doesn't work like that. It really doesn't work like that. Football, I've never seen football work in that kind of way, in those kind of perimeters. It's usually this player will add 10, 15 points, kind of thing. That's the kind of thing, you know, that we're looking at. So when I'm looking at these seasons, and I can only judge it by what he actually does, as opposed to what he hasn't been able to do or whatever, then I'm just like, I'm not really happy with it. He won 2 competitions, of course, that season, which is the FA Cup and the League Cup. Yeah, that in itself, that's calm. Do you get what I'm trying to say? That in itself is very, very calm. But it's still like the 2 biggest trophies that you've gone for that season, you can't get over the line. And when it's only a point, it's different when it's like you're 5, 6 points, because then you're just like, or even more, should I say, you know, that then I feel like that's easier to kind of get over, you know, so to speak, like if that was to happen, because then you'll understand, like, oh, there's like a clear gulf in class kind of thing, like, oh, like 8 points ahead of us every time they win the league, kind of thing. Then you're like, okay, yeah, I get it, you know, they are who they are, but we claim we're like on the same level as them and we're as good as them, and you're losing out by 1 point all the damn time. And it's just, after a while, I'm just getting sick and tired of it now, you know. And then again, that year that we went for the 4 trophies, that's probably, as funny as it sounds, in my opinion, in terms of the football that I was watching, it's probably one of the worst seasons I've seen up you know, the season we're going to get onto in a second. But yeah, probably one of the worst seasons performance-wise. Didn't like the performance from the team. You could see the team was kind of slowly getting to its natural end of like shelf life, you know, kind of thing. Klopp didn't really want to change it around. He's playing players all the time, every single game. In the final of the Champions League, players are tired and stuff like that. You know, you've not really rotated because you don't really know how to use a squad. The only time I've really done that was in the League Cup. Kind of thing, but everything else, you're just playing the same players every week. Come back from injury, you're playing. Come from injury, you're playing. It's like, oh, like maybe you should just change it up a little bit, you know. And again, it's so mad because you win a cup double that season, right? So I'm not saying it was a poor season by any stretch of the imagination. I thought it was a very calm season, but you know, I'm in it with the big prizes. And again, this is what I say, what I mentioned before. If you guys remember that I judge Klopp's time in terms of like. So from 2015 when he came, I judge him up until the year that we won the league. Once you won the league, you've got to the top of the mountain. So once you've gotten to the top of the mountain now, it's about maintaining that. Now, you don't always have to win the league. You can't just like, only Manchester City are good enough to do that. No other team in the Premier League is good enough to just keep winning, keep winning, keep winning, keep winning. Only City can do that. I think we all understand that. I think we all get that, right? That's not a problem. My issue is when you're put into positions so many times, after a while, you are asking questions like, okay, what's going on here then? Because you're always in this position and you always seem to fluff your lines. But the other guy is always in this position and he always seems to get over the line. What is it about you that you just can't get over the line? I don't really know. But that was annoying me a little bit. But again, I was still like, okay, cool. But in that quad season, or I keep saying quad season, but in that double season, I was definitely, I was like, okay, I feel like you've reached strike two now for me, where when I say strike two, I'm saying you've reached strike two where I'm like, okay, I asked questions before because, you know, I demand excellence. You've given us that up until the first part, you're saying, okay, I'm giving him a 9, 10, 9 or 10 out of 10, right? As an example, up like if I judged it from when he joined to when we won the Premier League, I'd say, okay, cool. I'll give you a 9.5/10 out of 10. You won the Premier League, you won the Champions League, you won the all these other cup competitions, you know, all that good stuff, right? And got Liverpool progressing. Once you reach the top of the mountain, though, you could not sustain that. Now, this is where I say you start to look at both sides of the coin, where it's like, I'm not going to just place blame on Klopp because it's not always just a Klopp thing, right? At the end of the day, it's going to be Klopp, it's going to be the owners, it's going to be the players. Everybody plays a part in all of this. So I'm not blaming everything that then happens, by the way, on Klopp. You're from 2020 to 2024, these last 4 years. I'm not blaming everything on Klopp because it's not all on him. I'm going to go down the FSG route again. You guys have that conversation with all the people who want to have that conversation. That's up to them. I focus on the football because that's what I know, right? So, yes, I know a little bit behind the scenes was well, in terms of from what I heard, reports wise, you know, in terms of players that he wanted, couldn't get those players. So he was kind of, it seemed to me that he kind of just threw your toys out of the time and said, you know, I can't get him, I don't want anybody, kind of thing. You know, that was the kind of energy that I got. But as I said, we go for that quad season, whatever that happens, cool. Then we get into that this season here where we finish 5th. And I said this was kind of like my final straw now. I'm already after the, you know, going for the quad the season before. I'm not really happy at this moment in time. Well, no, we're not saying not even happy. I'm just very, I'm not gassed like everybody else is all very excited. And I'm like, what is there to be excited about? Like, I don't really understand. Like, what are we jumping up and down about? We're not winning the Premier League, you know. So, and he's taken us to that point, and he's, from the way people are speaking anyway, and this is just from the people I'm interacting with, they're making it seem like we can always be here. All right, cool. Let me see that then. You know, kind of thing. I'll show you guys. I'll tell you guys in a minute the places that we finished after winning the league, and yeah, it doesn't look good. I'll tell you that much. It really doesn't look good. But yeah, we finished 5th this year, and yeah, this was obviously Klopp's worst season at Liverpool. Absolutely pathetic from the players to the owners to Klopp. Like Klopp, in terms of him tactically, just it really came to fruition this season. That season, you know, where I'm just like, you are so inept at what you're doing. I don't even understand half the time, do you know what you're doing? I get it. The players are not performing up to the level that you expect them to. So they definitely take, you know, a lot of the blame. Maybe like you can 50-50 if you want to. But Jesus Christ, your end of the bargain first. Can you please do your end of the bargain? Tactically, what are you doing? What are you doing? Substitutions, what are you doing? What are you doing, bro? You don't want to change it up. You want to keep things the same. We keep playing the same football that we've been playing since it was 2000 and God knows what. Change it up a little bit. Do something different. And then what does he end up doing? And this is what I keep saying about Klopp. He does things when it's too flipping late. And that used to bug the hell out of me. Like I said about the Reece Williams and Nat Phillips. You finally decide to play them, even though you didn't want to, when it was too late. That season when we finished 5th, he finally decides to change it up. We play with Trent inverted. We play a box midfield. We start doing well. We climb up the table. We finish 5th. Why didn't you do these things early? Why weren't you doing these things early? A top manager should see this. That's how I rate a top manager. Because I only see the top managers doing this stuff. Jose Mourinho, Pep Guardiola, you know, at the time, Carlo Ancelotti, understanding of what's the situation, of what's going on, and all that kind of stuff. But you're not seeing it, bro. And we're just watching game after game, losing to Forest, losing to Brighton, losing to Wolves, losing to Leeds. I'm just thinking, bro, when is it going to end? Like, when is this going to end? And I said, I'm kind of done with all of this now. Like, I'm happy for everything you've done. And you've done an amazing job up till 2020. I thought you've done an amazing job. I really felt like, you know what? I'll give you a 10 out of 10 for that period of time. But you see, from 2020 and the last 4 years, yeah, nah, I'm giving you like a 5, 4.5 or 5. Like, that's how far you dropped, because you weren't able to maintain anything other than one season where you challenged for the title. In 4 years, you challenged for a title. Come on, bro. Like, we would as fans, and this is what I say, we can't always keep being biased. As fans, we would get on people's neck if Arteta now went the next 4 years and did not challenge for a title, or only challenge for one title in the next 4 years. I promise you, we'd get onto him. I promise you. Let's say he wins the title next season, and then for the next 3-4 years after that, he doesn't even challenge. He finishes 3rd, 5th, 3rd, and all of that. But we'll get onto him. We'd get onto these people. Of course, we would get onto them, because we're like, well, you're not really progressing, are you? You're kind of stagnating, or if anything, you're kind of declining. And that was always my point. So when I'm trying to explain this to people, oh, but he's got credit in the bank, and I'm like, credit in the bank? That lasted time ago, bro. He won the league 3 years before that. That's 3 years ago that you're talking about this guy won the Premier League. Ever since then, he ain't won no major competitions. Unless you're going to count the FA Cup and League Cup, but the 2 major ones, he ain't won them for 3 years, 4 years in the case of the Champions League. But cool, let's take the Champions League out, because I'm not expecting you to constantly win that. No one really does, apart from Real Madrid. But the Premier League, he's only won that 3 years ago. We're now coming up to 2024. It's now been 4 years. He's going to be 5 by the end of next season. You know what I mean? He's just lucky he got himself out when he could. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Again, this is what was frustrating me. This is why when people kept asking, and the conversations I'm having with all of you online and social media and stuff like that, I'm like, I hear where you're coming from. I get it. I get all of that credit in the bank stuff. But guess what? You're showing me all style and no substance right now. Nothing. You're not giving me any reason to be vindicated in why you're why this guy should stay. Why should I sit here? I keep telling you guys, I support Klopp. I support Liverpool. He is an employee. Just like the players that you man crash on a weekly basis, he is another one of those ones who can easily get it as well. Can easily get crashed on. You're not special. Do you get what I'm trying to say? By the way, not that he's ever going to watch this. I'm not saying that he thinks he is special. It's more the fans, I think, that annoyed me during these kind of periods of time. Same way the fans behave with like a Darwin Núñez. They ain't special. They are not special. They are disposable things that we can easily get rid of and easily get something else in. It's really simple. It's literally the economy of football. That's kind of how football works. You let go of Ronaldo, guess what? We're going to move on without you. We let go of Lionel Messi, guess what? We're going to move on without you. So we can let go of Jurgen Klopp and we can still move on anyway. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And I think it almost felt like the fans just didn't really understand that. And that, I think, was always the battle that, say, people like myself, and again, I know I was in the minority at that period of time, which is fine. I don't really mind. But at that period of time, when I was saying, you know, after this, especially during the season, I was very vocal about it. But just even after the end of the season, I was like, yeah, I don't need to speak up anymore. The only way that the only way I could accept him staying is he literally have to win the league the following season. That was the perimeters, and I didn't even have him down to win the league, but that would have been the only way for me to have seen him stay, is say, okay, he wins the league, then I don't mind. Like, and then the rating I give him would probably have been a bit higher than what I'm actually going to give him, you know, come the end of it. But unfortunately, he didn't do that, you know. And then of course we get to this season. Come the end of it, of course, we revamped the midfield. Everything else the same, but we revamped the midfield. And then I finished third, you know, winning the Carabao Cup as well this season. This season just finished up. Poor in the Europa League. We were absolutely embarrassed by Atalanta. Big up to them. Knocked out of the FA Cup, embarrassed again. So yeah, you know, outside of the Carabao Cup, which is good, you know, he picked up a trophy, albeit the deadest one that you can think of. But we picked up a trophy. No worries. I know people want to get gassed at that. No problem. You finished third. You completely failed in the objective of trying to win that Premier League. You didn't really challenge that for that long. So to speak, in terms of we got all the way to, I mean, in my personal opinion, Liverpool were never going to win the league because we weren't good enough to win the league. Arsenal, Manchester City, in my opinion, is a level better, is a level higher than Liverpool at this current moment in time. I felt that we were extremely lucky to even be in this position. You could put that down to whatever factors. You could say that's a Klopp factor. Maybe he was the reason why we were there. You can say the players. You could say both. But I felt we were so lucky to even be here. If you watch the games back and if you took off your Liverpool hat for 2 seconds and just watch those games, yeah, you would see what I'm talking about. Liverpool weren't good in most of the games that we played, but individual quality that will save you. I kept saying it all season. See, when you got individual quality that is better than the opposition that you play, more often than not, that's going to come to fruition for you. And of course, it's not like, and the individual quality we're talking about, like Van Dijk, Salah, Alisson, Trent, Robbo, like we're talking about guys who have been there, done that, and got the t-shirt, right? So, you know, come up against certain teams, these kind of things will happen. But when you're watching the performances of these players, and you guys can go back and watch my player rating that I gave for the players this season, you know, there weren't that many high scores. Yeah, I can't think it was like Konza, maybe I gave a high score. I think Virgil, I gave a high score. The rest were like 5s and 6s and 4s and that, because it wasn't really that popping, you know, in my personal opinion. But anyways, to the season in general, yeah, we finished third, and where I didn't have them third at the beginning of the season. I think I actually had them fourth because I thought Chelsea or Manchester United would actually be better. But yeah, in terms of the context of the season in itself, yeah, I wasn't pleased. I'll be honest. I was not really pleased this season, to be honest with you, at all. Like prior to him even announcing that he was going to leave, but you know, leave he is going to do. So, you know, it kind of it is what it is. You know, in that kind of regards. You know, you can see here 60 points in his first season, 76, 75, 97, 99, 69, 92, 67. This is obviously what they predicted potentially Liverpool to get earlier on in the actual season, but of course we didn't finish on those points. Of course, we finished on 82, so 10 points lower than what they thought we would finish on. But I'm not really bothered about that. It's just when you look at this, just look, guys, 60 points, 76, 75. 97, like I said, in my opinion, Liverpool's best season. 99, then you go to 69, 92, 67, and then you get 82. Like, it's so just like this. It's not consistent, in my personal opinion. It's just not going to be consistent. And when I look at the league finishes that we've had, you know, since Klopp has been here, you know, I'm looking at it now, 8th in his first season, cool, not fussed like that. Then you get 4th, then 4th again, 2nd, 1st, no worries. So from 1 to, I mean, half a season, but 1, 2, 3, 4 in his 4.5 season, that's when he ends up winning the Premier League, right? No worries. And you can see there is a steady progression with the team, right? Not a problem. 3rd, 2nd, 5th, 3rd. Come on, man. I'm sorry, people, but I'm even being kind and I'm breaking it up and I'm saying I'm going from 15, 16 up until 1920, right? So that's 4 years, give it like 4 or 5 years that I'm judging one part of Klopp. If I had to just judge that, considering what we won in that time, I would say, you know what? I'll give him a 9 like 9.5 probably for that period of time, considering of what he came into, right? And I'm going to use that old thing of, oh yeah, comparing to what we had before. But cool, we're going to do that. If you then had to judge, if you just didn't know who the manager was, right? And I told you this manager has finished after winning the Premier League, after winning their league, they then finished 3rd, 2nd, 5th, and 3rd. How would you rate that? Considering, and if I then told you some of the players that this team had, if I told you some of that, would you still be like, yeah, no, that was calm? I don't think you would, man. If you took off your Liverpool bias, I don't think you would do that. I don't think you would do that. So, yeah. When we come to my final, the final bit here, about his rating, I think I'll give him a. What did I give him, man? Of course, won everything but the Europa League. But I guess now we're all going to say, oh, we don't care, right? But if you won it, we're going to be like, oh, we won everything, right? Yeah, typical. Absolute typical. But yeah, like I said, this is when Klopp was, you know what I'm saying? And really, it was only actually really 1 year when you think about it, that we won everything. We actually had a good 1 year period, 12 months, like from this June to that June, where we picked up all of these trophies. But it was that season 18-19, right? So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for that. I'll give him, for his time at Liverpool, taking everything into context. Let me see how many times. Let me actually see how many times he finished. I'm actually gonna share the screen for you guys, just because I want you guys to be able to see. I just want you guys to just to see what I'm looking at as well, just so you don't think I'm being too harsh, right? So 8th, 4th, 4th, 2nd, 1st. Then you've got, let me enlarge that a little bit. Oops. Then you've got 1st, then you've got 3rd, 2nd, 5th, 3rd. Like, I'll be real, maybe like obviously won the Premier League and the Champions League in his whole time here. 8.59, if I'm being like vaguely honest. Yeah, 8.5, kind of 9. Obviously, we've got the other stuff that we can talk about, which is, of course, raising the stature of the club and all that kind of. Yeah, he did all of that when he reached the top of the mountain. He did that, and all of those things come into that play. Like, of course, without helping the team to be able to do what they did, then of course, but yeah, like it's like you helped us to get to the mountain, and then I would think that the stock has probably fallen a little bit. If I'm being super honest, like I don't know what the stock thing is, but in my mind, I wouldn't look at Liverpool and think, yeah, this is a club still on the rise. Do you know what I mean? Like, why would I do that? You get what I'm trying to say? Like, and that's why I never really understood the credit in the bank stuff, because I said, if you guys saw that same thing from a different manager, you'd all be cussing. You'd all be saying, yeah, nah, he isn't good enough, this, that, and the third, blah, 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 etc., etc. But when it's Klopp, we don't really do that, because we're so gassed that we've got one Premier League title, the same as Ranieri, the same as Blackburn Rovers, that we don't look at it any other way. We're not really trying to judge him by the new standards that he has now set. That was always my issue. Judge him by the new standards. Stop judging him by the old standards. You win the Premier League, there's more pressure on you now. There's way more pressure on you than when you joined the football club. Why? Because you won the Premier League now. So guess what? We're judging you by a whole new set of standards now. Guess what, my boy? Unfortunately, if you ain't finishing in the top 2, we're calling that a bit of a failure. And if you do finish out the top 2, you better pray that you're picking up every trophy outside of that. If not, that's where we're kind of like a little bit like, And again, only because we have to go by new standards. So yeah, like I said, man, first 4 years, brilliant. It was really, really brilliant. Next 4, no, not really. I'll be honest, man. So 8.5 for me for Klopp's time here. I would thank him in terms of, he was able to bring us back to a respectable level now, where people respect us in that kind of way. But now he's leaving. Arne Slot's going to be coming in, so that's going to be an interesting journey to see just really where Liverpool kind of go as a football club, and in terms of what we do and how we do things, and the pool that we may or may not even have now that Klopp isn't going to be here. What does that look like? So yeah, let me know what you guys, of course, think in the comment section in regards to my rating. As I said, I'm giving him an 8.5 for his time here at Liverpool. Most of you might even be surprised I gave it high, but that's just the score that I'm going to give him. But yeah, as I said, make sure you smash a like, make sure you share and subscribe to the damn channel. And again, leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. I will try and reply to everybody I possibly can over the next couple of days. I'm G. That's my honest opinion on Jurgen Klopp. Danke, Jurgen.